Hello everyone, what's up? In today's video we are going to talk about creepiest pictures and their disturbing backstories. So let's get started. The trophy heads of the Maori. Long before European colonizers arrived in New Zealand, the native Maori people were preserving the severed heads of the fallen, known as mokamokai. The heads were chopped off, boiled, smoked, dried in the sundae and dipped in shark oil, before being displayed or paraded around like trophies. But when the British moved in during the 1840s, they soon pillaged the mokamokai for themselves. Major General Horatio Gordon Robley, featured in this creepy old picture with his collection, who served in the British Army during the New Zealands in the 1860s, was particularly fascinated by the Maori and stole at least 35 heads for himself. The 25-year captivity of Blanche Monnier. When French authorities received an anonymous tip in 1901 that a woman was being held prisoner at an aristocrat's house in the city of Poitiers, they sent out officers to search the home. Behind the locked door of the pitch-black attic, they found a skeletal middle-aged woman lying on a straw mattress laden with her excrement while insects and rotting food littered the floor. The room's odor was so rank that officers couldn't even continue their investigation. But they were able to learn that the 55-pound woman still clinging to life after 25 years trapped in that same room was named Blanche Monnier, and that her captor was her mother. Victorian post-mortem portraits. Life expectancies in Victorian England were tragically low due to the high frequency of disease and lack of proper medical treatment. And because photography was extremely expensive, most people were never able to get their portraits taken. So, when young children passed away, their parents often dressed them in their finest clothes to sit for their first portrait, creating eerily lifelike images of kids who had already been gone for days. The Rothschild Surrealist Ball. The elaborate masks, robes, and decorations on display at the 1972 Rothschild Surrealist Ball are unsettling enough on their own even before you consider the people behind it. Wild conspiracy theories have swirled around the Rothschilds for centuries, with believers claiming that this German banking family does everything from control the world's wealth to instigate wars for their gain. The surrealist ball at Château de Ferrières in France has only stoked outsiders' imaginations about what goes on behind closed doors at parties attended by the rich, powerful, and famous. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel. Anneliese Michel was a devout Catholic teenager living a normal life with her parents in Germany in the late 1960s. But then she began blacking out at school before exhibiting increasingly strange behaviors like routinely convulsing, hallucinating, eating spiders, and even drinking her urine. Michel claimed to be possessed by the devil, and her parents soon came to the same conclusion. They ultimately subjected her to 67 exorcisms, none of which improved her condition before she died of malnutrition at age 23 in 1976. Michael Rockefeller's death by cannibalism. The son of New York Governor and soon-to-be U.S. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller disappeared somewhere in Papua New Guinea in the early 1960s. Seen here on his first trip there in May 1960. Rockefeller's smile belies his grim fate. It's believed he was killed and eaten by the Asmat people, a cannibal group known to behead their enemies and consume their flesh. The creepy photo of the mutated piglet from Chernobyl. The Chernobyl disaster of April 26, 1986, in Pripyat, Ukraine remains the most catastrophic nuclear accident in history. Although the Chernobyl exclusion zone slowly seems to be returning to semi-hospitable conditions for wildlife, the animals who inhabited the area in the late 1980s weren't as lucky. This piglet, on display at the Ukrainian National Chernobyl Museum in Kiev, is a prime example. Labeled simply as a mutated piglet, the creature was born with dipygus, a congenital deformity that causes the body to fork left and right along the torso, and the pelvis and legs to duplicate. The death of Vladimir Komarov. When Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov was tapped to pilot the Soyuz 1 mission slated for April 23, 1967, he knew he was doomed. The craft had shown problems during testing, and it was clear that the man put inside it would not come back alive. Although the dangers were clear, no one was willing to back out and risk disappointing the Soviet high command. Even Komarev refused to back out because doing so would have doomed the next pilot in line, friend and fellow cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Sure enough, upon re-entry, the craft's parachute failed and Komarev burned to death as the Soyuz hurtled through the atmosphere at unthinkable speeds. With that, Karev became the first human to ever die in spaceflight. Vintage Halloween costume. From doll masks and bags over heads to this terrifyingly enlarged skull getup. Children's Halloween costumes of decades past made for some intensely creepy pictures that remain disturbing even today. The last victim of Jack the Ripper. The final victim of the infamous serial killer Jack the Ripper, Mary Jane Kelly, was found murdered and mutilated on November 9, 1888, when a rent collector entered the room she was staying in. He found Kelly on her bed with various body parts and organs cut out and placed beside her corpse. Kelly was far more mutilated than any of the other 4 victims that Jack the Ripper had killed in the Whitechapel and Spitalfields districts of London in the preceding months. Concealed behind Kelly's closed door, the Ripper took his time and spent nearly 2 hours carving up her body in various ways before sneaking away, never to be caught or even heard from again.